First, you must realize that you have no idea before you can know the idea. We scan across all the frequencies if we want to learn anything new. Let us begin.
What has physics done for me lately? Second more, the equation E is equal mc squared. We have now acquired a fateful power to alter and to destroy nature. That's like when you're in physics and you go to Dreamworld saying, this is a physics excursion. Science, what is it all about? The whole of human history all falls in the dust of one stroke of a nail file. You can't really get to grips with evolution unless you realise what an enormous amount of time our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold. You're tuned into what can only be described as the best radio station on this blue dot we call Earth. It is, of course, for Triple Z tariff-free radio, connecting and amplifying voices of our community, be it on your conventional wireless radio by tuning into the classic frequency 102.1 FM, digital devices such as DAB or smart speaker, listening via the Community Radio Plus app, or streaming us live from our sensational website at 4zzz.org.au. And of course, you can always listen back to our show, or any Triple Z show for that matter, using the ingenious on-demand feature, also found at that URL. We also now have a weekly podcast of the show for your listening pleasure, curated by Toby, a condensed version of the show without the music, which my mum prefers. Just search for our show name, which is, of course, No Idea, spelt with a K. Your weekly dose of science. And joining me today, it's just me, Max, delivering some gold standard science. Everyone will be back next week. So I thought I'd do a rewind show similar to last week. For those unfamiliar with the show, we generally start the show with some weird science, then move on to some marine science, and then my personal favourite, the MotoRap. Basically any science that is fun and interesting to talk about. Then we round out the show with some space news. I think it's time for a bit of this.
I have some weird marine science, because that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to tell you about all the things in the ocean, and a lot of those things happen to feel weird to us because they're very different. So I was actually really excited when I found this because it's about one of my favourite things in the ocean. Does anyone want to have a guess?
Crocodiles.
They're very low on my
whales.
list, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, blue whales. You
though.
love blue whales.
I think blue whales are fine.
Yeah.
I think they're good.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, it's a bottlenose dolphin. I love them. I grew up around them. I think they're great. And specifically, it was sort of brought on by baby bottlenose dolphins, which I have seen them firsthand. The cutest thing in the world. They are so cute. It's a pity they grow up into evil little monsters, but adorable. Anyway, so essentially, when they're first born, they come out with their tail first, which is weird, and then they actually have whiskers, kind of like seals, which is strange.
Oh.
But you will have never seen a dolphin with those whiskers because they fall off very, very quickly after birth. But they kind of have these like dimples on their faces after that, and they're known as the bristle pits. And recently, these guys from the University of Rostock, Germany, I do not have the QS ranking, so you guys can guess, but who knows, we'll figure it out.
Less than 100. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know, we'll see. Rostock, Germany, Gabe's looking it up, it's coming up. And essentially they were like, well, what are these dimples? They probably have some sort of reasoning. It can't just be this, or it doesn't have to be just a recessive thing that hasn't gone away. And they thought to themselves, they look really similar to this thing that sharks have called the ampullae of Lorenzini. Now, the ampullae of Lorenzini are a specific sense that sharks have, which is to be able to, or elasmobranchs, and it allows them to detect electromagnetic fields. So that's why a lot of sharks like super murky waters, because they don't need to see things. They can feel the electromagnetic fields of the living things around them. It helps them find stuff. And so this guy saw these dimples in the dolphins and was like, that's mighty similar. I'm going to see, just on a hunch, if dolphins can sense electric fields. And so he went to some captive dolphins and put basically an electronic bar at the bottom of their enclosure under some sand, and then essentially trained them to go and tap it with their jaw. by sense. So they found out that they could actually feel where the bar is because they'd get a treat if they touched the bar with their jaw, and they found it very quickly every time. So then the question is, how sensitive are they? Is it static? All sorts of stuff. So fish put out a pulsing electric field between this 1 nanometer and another nanometer, so they kind of wanted to see, like, is it aimed at fish? And the thing is, the dolphins differed, and they also were better at static electric fields, whereas sharks are better, we know, at pulsing electric fields, which matches fish more closely. However, they did find that dolphins would be able to use this sense to find fish under the sand. So they're pretty sure what it's for is that the dolphins will go around, they'll see a fish dive into the sand, and then they'll sort of rub their jaw over it to find it in those last few centimetres. It's when they can't see it. So it's pretty weak, but it is a sense that they think they can use in the wild, which I thought was really cool.
Thanks for that, Peter. That's a recording from way back 6th December 2023. You're tuned to 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max, flying solo, doing a rewind show. It's part 2 of this. A microphone detects variances in air pressure and converts this into electrical activity. But what if you designed a microphone that converted airflow generated by sound waves into electrical signals? This could prove to be a real game changer. Researchers from Binghamton University, QS ranking.
Oh.
It's a range.
Okay.
Oh, 5 to 550.
1,000 to 1,200. Binghamton have developed a new kind of microphone after experimenting with spider silk. The microphone is based on biomimicry and is inspired by the way spiders use their hairs to detect motion in the air that's part of the sound field. They also use their ultra-sensitive spider silk that is capable of picking up the velocity of air instead of just its pressure, which improves the directional sensing across a wide variety of frequencies that are often too quiet for conventional microphones to detect. To test their spider silk-inspired theory, the researchers turned to Binghamton University's anechoic chamber, a soundproof room on the bottom floor of the engineering and science building. The room afforded the researchers the ability to control the sound environment and prevent disruption during data collection. It turns out a microphone incorporating spider silk flow technology is so sensitive it can record sound from as little as 1 hertz right up and surpassing normal human hearing, which is about 20,000 hertz, to a hyperspectrum of 50,000 hertz. The patented technology, now in the hands of a company called SoundScrit, has recently released small form factor microphones using the new flow architecture. They envisage big tech to incorporate their microphones into video conferencing solutions, laptops, mobile phones, hearing aids, and so on. Such as the fidelity, a new microphone paradigm is beckoning, one that promises studio quality sound capture in a device no bigger than a matchbox. The patent is not the... Hey?
Why is our first thought Zoom?
What? Yeah, we invented this brand new thing. Let's put it in Zoom.
Laptops. Like, if this goes higher than human hearing, why aren't we like recording insects and the world around us and trying to see things?
That's right.
What are you talking about? This is going in Zoom.
That's right. Well, I'm thinking
I can hear my colleagues perfectly
cochlear
fine.
implants. It's going to be used for their microphones for sure one day.
That's great.
And they also didn't call it spider sense.
No,
Yeah,
well, true. They should have
they
done
should've-
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anyway.
TM, no idea. Captured. I don't know what the word is. That's ours. Copyrighted.
I just personally think I don't want my microphone to be
So
like
sensitive.
really. But yeah, I just like I already feel very self-conscious if I'm on like a Zoom call or whatever. I'm like, I'm not gonna eat, I'm not gonna move, I'm not gonna do anything that might like cause sound to happen. So like,
Do you even talk, like, when you're on mute, will you talk to someone
No.
next to you?
no, I'm paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
If someone's in the room, we do just charades.
I whisper. sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really real confident that day.
Feeling
I'll
really
whisper
brave.
on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to run like this sort of video conference for work the other day, and I don't know, everyone's mics were just they were picking up so much background noise, and I couldn't get any of them to like turn it off. So it was just like this constant buzz and white noise, and you could barely hear anyone. Everyone was kind of, softly shouting to be heard over all that. So yeah, I don't know.
People.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
gross.
I know.
If you're not talking, go on mute. It's just polite.
So true.
How good is that mic etiquette from Peta? That's a recording from way back on the 6th of December 2023.
But what if that little treat was a termite? I don't know what. Anyway,
What bridge are we crossing here?
we're crossing something, Max. Let me cook. All right.
You tuned into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science. With me, Max, flying solo today. It's part 3 of this.
I've got for you, Max, endangered goannas that may help Australian sheep from being eaten alive by flies. So, sheep and blowflies is where we have to start this story, which is that
I love
high
sheep.
densities, you do love sheep, but you don't think you're going to love blowflies because high densities of blowflies put sheep at risk of something called fly strike.
Yes,
Heard about fly strike before?
I have, yes.
No.
Here's a disease where blowfly maggots burrow into the sheep's flesh and start to eat it alive.
Oh, actually, no, I have heard about this.
So it's very painful, affects sort of the value of a sheep for the farmer, but also can reduce the success they have in breeding, reduce overall health, result in death, probably makes them more susceptible to other diseases and things going
One
on.
of the reasons they dock sheep.
Yeah, and so when the maggots of the blowfly produce more flies, they can spread up to 20 kilometers in a week, so they're massive
Right.
super spreaders.
How fast are they?
And so you can get sort of areas just get hit by fly strike and it spreads very quickly and sort of escalates out of control. It is estimated that welfare issues aside for the sheep, it also can cost sheep farmers in Australia up to $280 million per year. So big issue. And this new research out of Flinders University, as well as a couple of other unis. Guesses for Flinders?
Enders.
Where is that? In WA,
B20?
is it? Or South Australia?
South Australia.
Yeah, okay.
320.
I'll go, what, 220?
336.
No.
Close.
Hell yeah.
So these researchers, they were in the UK as well, out of Cambridge, but they were interested in the heath goanna. Yeah, correct. Well done.
I gotta do it.
Yes.
You done?
Yeah, thank you.
Heath goannas, endangered big lizard found used to be found across southern parts of Australia, WA, South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales. Now is only in pockets of those because
How big
it
is it?
endangered. Pretty standard goanna size.
Okay, well,
Like
I
1
come
point-
from a country where they go to like over a
1.5
meter.
meters up to, I think.
Okay.
And it feeds on other animals, catching live animals, but also on dead carcasses where blowflies can breed and escalate into massive numbers. So what they did is they went to 18 sites across the Mana, Bangarra rewilding project area on the southern York Peninsula, where over 90% of native mammals are now extinct, and they compared the scavenging activity of different animals in the region. So the researchers left hundreds of dead rats at feeding stations.
Okay.
Yeah. With
Delicious.
camera traps monitoring them in this area of South Australia. And then they came back after 5 days to see whether the rats had been eaten and then to count the number of blowfly maggots that had been left on any remaining carcasses. The researcher behind this said it was disgusting. We were counting maggots. After 5 days, we'd find over 1,000 maggots in one rat if a scavenger hadn't found it.
Yeah.
God.
And then they used the camera traps to figure out what was eating the dead rats and how quickly they were getting rid of them.
Yeah, kids,
So what
study
they
science. You might
found-
get to watch dead rats get eaten by maggots.
You get to watch dead rats get eaten by all sorts of weird animals, including foxes and cats, and then you get to go and count the maggots in the ones that they missed. That's real science for you right there. So what they found was that native Australian scavengers ate more of the dead rats, and with them the flesh-eating maggots, than these scavengers introduced from Europe, which are the things like foxes and cats.
Pussy Europeans.
And they found exactly.
Harden up.
I know. They need to lower their standards like these Aussie animals. Eat the dead rats. The native scavengers, like the heath goannas, were much more effective at removing blowflies from the landscape than the invasive scavengers were. So they say it could save the by promoting heath goannas and other native scavengers, it could save the sheep farming industry a lot of money by just reducing the blowfly load in an area.
That's the reason why we should help native species.
Yeah, help the sheep. And the researchers say that boosting the populations of native large reptiles is vital in restoring Australia's ecosystem and the services it supports. There you go.
Thanks, Gabe, for that. That science article by Gabe was done on the 26th of June last year. And it's time to hear from our friendly neighbourhood marine scientist, Peta. They're discussing mussels. This is a recording from the 21st of August last year.
I want you guys to answer a question for me.
Okay.
What are some things that mussels can do for you?
Make me a good dinner.
Interesting. Yep. Hold in all of your organs.
That's one.
That's hard to beat.
Hard to be holding in your
Cooking
organ.
dinner and holding your organs into your mouth.
That's pretty great.
Is there anything they can't do?
Well, I think Max was trying to ruin my joke, and luckily it kind of went over everyone's head. But it's because I'm not talking about those kind of mussels.
What?
Afterwards, they're just two shells and a bit of muscle. Get it? Anyway, I was really happy with that one.
Awful.
I want to preface this story with the idea that I wrote this, like my version of this, 11 last night, which is not that late, but it was for me.
It hasn't been peer reviewed. Yes.
This has not been peer reviewed by anyone.
This
I've
is the
never
peer
peer reviewed.
It's
Yeah,
live.
peer review me right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, today we're talking about mussels, the bivalve, and a fascinating discovery that has come out about from years of research over in the British Isles. We're talking a lot about the UK today. Something in the air. I don't know. We should do a Doctor Who
Something in the
special
water.
soon.
Yeah.
So the research was looking at the effects and impacts of the UK's first large-scale offshore mussel farm. So the farm is called Offshore Shellfish, and which is really fun to say, Offshore Shellfish, and it's set in Lyme Bay, which, for those of you unfamiliar, is set in England's southern coast, sort of like it's under Wales. Like, you know, it has Wales, then it goes back in a bit, and then it spits back out again on like the foot of England, sort of there. So the research run by the University of Plymouth, QS ranking,
Limit.
120.
the original Plymouth,
Yeah.
200.
500.
80.
661. Congratulations, Izzy. Yes. So this research has been following the impacts of the farm since it began in 2013, which is a really cool study because the aquaculture is growing, especially like shellfish aquaculture, and to actually know the real impacts of a farm is a rare thing. So this research has been going for just over a decade now. I think they are continuing to follow them, and they found a bunch of different things. So the farm grows the mussels on these long vertical ropes that are hung in the water column, and the ropes. There's a YouTube video on them. I highly recommend you watch it. It was like they didn't really advertise that it was about a single farm, but this company called Razor did like a mini documentary on them, and it was actually really cool. So like the ropes are specially made and they're sort of flayed out, so it looks like someone's gone through and like made essentially a dread out of this rope because it's thicker and it's woollier and it's got more space, because that means that the mussels have more space to cling on to, especially like the microscopic baby mussels. And so the reason they need that is because mussels, like a lot of marine creatures, do what we call spawning, which means they sort of spurt out their eggs and sperm into the water, and then they mix and fertilize in the water. And because they do that, the farmers don't actually need to breed their own spat. Technically, that makes them ranchers, not farmers, because farmers breed their own animals, whereas ranchers just grow them. But we're just going to call them farmers for now because it is a bit of a blurry line in this case.
Yep.
But when they started the farm, they chose this location because they knew there were some mussel beds around which would provide some starting spat. Anyway, 11 years in, and they have won all sorts of awards for sustainability for their low-impact, low-carbon food product with, you know, high protein, high this, high that, just immensely good for you. So, Max, exactly,
Yes.
mussels for dinner, really,
Fantastic.
really good for you.
Yeah.
So they've got all these awards, they've on these lists, they're doing amazing. But what has been a pleasant surprise from the research of the farm is that it may not just be having a low impact on the surrounding environment, but in fact a positive impact. So previous research has already shown that the farm was increasing biodiversity in the immediate area as the mussels provided habitat in a new and novel space. But over the years, they've also seen some pretty dramatic change on the seabed. So it was once a simple muddy sediment when they started the farm, and now it's sort of been transformed into these shell reefs. So similar to what you'd see like on the banks of the river, how there's like all those oysters and stuff, that's called an oyster reef, except this is just on a flat at the bottom of the ocean. And so they've got mussels and bivalves and oysters providing habitat, and it boosts the populations of fish and crustacean species, as well as just the general health of the environment, so water quality, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of interesting. And using acoustic tags and underwater monitoring, the scientists found that European lobsters, which is another commercial species, were using the farm anchors for feeding in refuge because they're just covered in all these fallen mussels. So that's all very, very exciting. But a farm building a new environment is exciting, but also a little nerve-wracking, right? Because you'd never just want to play God and build ecosystems because you think it's better, right? Like, you never know if maybe that muddy flat was what it's meant to be, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But recently, this story has become even greener because a local artist recently uncovered a historical map which proved that the project may be more of a restoration effort. So the map, dated from 1871,
That's right.
describes...
Yeah, I read this. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Apparently, the seabed used to be described as being home to rich shell beds.
Yeah.
So in 1871, these things already were covered in these shell reefs, likely of mussels and oysters, because they use a native species.
You said it was called Lime Bay too, right?
Lime Bay, yes,
As
exactly.
in limestone, as in
As in there were
deposits from
shells.
Shells?
Yeah,
Yeah.
as in the sediment is built on old shells anyway, which, yes, Gabe, they really should have used that as evidence, but you never know how far back that was. The researchers believe that those reefs were destroyed during the 20th century because they were using towed fishing gear, so like bottom trawling, otter trawling, that sort of stuff. Things that are scraped along the bottom would have destroyed the habitat. Not necessarily just by picking it up, but with oysters and bivalves that are filter feeders, if you have too much sediment in the water from something like that, even a little ways over, you can clog their feeding systems and they'll just die anyway. So that's likely what happened there. And the lead author, Dr. Emma Sheehan, put it as, to find out that the habitats were found in the region 150 years ago is really exciting because it shows that the farm is not only having a positive impact on the health of the ocean now, but returning the seabed to some semblance of its former state, which is just really, really cool. It's like this farm is just reinvigorating the area, which is really, really sick, really cool to see. So go offshore shellfish. You guys doing an amazing job.
Right.
Just
That's beautiful. The bivalves were there all along.
Yeah.
They were.
Paradigm Shifts podcast is available online and via your favorite podcasting app, challenging the assumptions of our current society to investigate alternative ways of living for a world based on justice, solidarity, and sustainability. Tune in to the Paradigm Shift podcast. Just search The Paradigm Shift for Triple Z.
You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Maximilian.
Okay, it's time for the best part of the show. Loosely defined as science, yeah, you already know. Everybody listens to 4ZZZ just to hear us talking about what Butters just did. Subscriptions just keep rolling like the tires on a car. But something tells me that our science curves won't go far. But unlike an engine, I won't keep you in suspension. We're all here to hear him talk, so let's give him attention. You're not ready for when he starts rapping. Gonna hand the mic to Max, and I'm not talking band stamping.
F1, for those following for the first time, F1, I think this season is simply lovely. Would you say
Simply lovely.
that? Let's unpack what happened on the weekend. It was held in Belgium on the famous or / infamous Spa circuit.
I think more famous. I reckon famous.
Okay.
Yeah.
And because it was a sprint weekend, there was only one free practice session for the teams to get their cars in the window, if you will.
Bit of a challenge. Luckily, Spa's been very consistently on the calendar, so lots of data there for the teams to fall back on.
Straight away, the McLarens were on it. They were pretty quick, and Max Verstappen's Red Bull was running less wing which made it a rocket ship down the straights, but a bit more of a handful through the corners.
Yeah. Sector 1, he was always consistently strong, but yeah, the McLarens would just bring it back. Sector 2, Sector 3.
Exactly.
The interesting thing is that Verstappen's usual engineer, Gianpiero Lambiase, was actually away on some personal matters, I guess. And so he had Daniel Ricciardo's old engineer.
Yeah, cool.
Simon Rennie, which is good fun. Always good to see him back on the pit wall.
The sprint pole was claimed by Aussie Oscar Piastri, with Max Verstappen in P2 and Norris, Oscar's teammate, in third. In doing so, Oscar set a new track record of 1 minute, 40 seconds and a half, beating Lewis Hamilton's record by a whopping 0.7 of a second. So
yeah, I mean, that's a lifetime in Formula One, according to Brad Pitt. So I think the really interesting thing there is that the time Lewis Hamilton set was in the world-beating W11.
Yeah, Mercedes.
Which everyone just thought was just, this is the pinnacle of Formula One. It will never get better.
And now someone's done it in a McLaren.
Yeah.
For the sprint, Red Bull's superior straight line speed and Oscar's slipstream was used to great effect, allowing Max Verstappen to pass and assume the lead on the first lap.
Yeah, and I think Piastri did really well to hang with him.
Yes.
Like, managed to follow, didn't have too much deg on the tyres, and I think made a really good attempt at an overtake at the end of the Kemmel Straight, but unfortunately Verstappen was having none of it.
Exactly.
So he went on to win the 15-lap sprint.
Yeah, it was only 15 laps, so there wasn't time really to do it, and no pit stop, obviously.
Yeah, no strategizing your way out of that position. But again, did really well, I think, to hang with them. And, of course, Lando Norris rounding out
the bridesmaid, as always, So, sadly, no anthem for the sprint result.
However, please be understanding.
Yes, we get to play it. It's 6 times this year we've played it on the show. That means 6-time Oscar Piastri's been on the top of the podium. Piastri won. He's now equaling Honey Badger.
Yeah, again, another great Daniel Ricciardo fact this week.
Of 8 F1 wins.
Yeah, that's crazy to think. Because those every single one of Ricciardo's victories was hard fought.
Oh, was
except I mean, apart from the McLaren run where he just let it start to finish, and his engine didn't decide to die on him or anything weird.
Exactly.
And now it just feels like Oscar's walking to there.
It's a cakewalk.
Absolutely.
Qualifying for the feature race saw Lando Norris set pole in his McLaren with Oscar on P2. This meant a McLaren front row lockout, which, as it turned out, did not mean that much because it was a rain-affected race and they did a rolling start to begin the race.
Yeah, a bit disappointing to see, but of course, I just think I think they're worried that one side of the grid was too wet. So, half of the cars would just be disadvantaged for no good
and
reason.
Lando would be driving over it, trying to clear his box, but no one else saw.
That was actually funny to witness on the outlets.
And it was very similar to the sprint where the person racing in position 2 was able to take advantage of the slipstream and pass on the first lap, which what Oscar did to his teammate Lando.
Yeah, and I think this what really happened is there's a bit of a debate here in terms of what actually happened to Lando? Was it actually his battery deployment? He didn't have the energy deployment necessary? Was it, just any number of things? For me, it was just the fact that he had a bit of tail wagging out of La Source, turn 1.
Yes.
And then because you carry, for those unfamiliar with the Spa circuit, from turn 1, 2, 3 to 4, you're only braking at turn 4.
Yes, right.
You're not braking before then. So you're carrying your momentum from La Source through Eau Rouge, up Raidillon, all the way through the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah.
And by compromising yourself in any way, let's say having a bad exit out of the turn 1, it does effectively look like you're down on power because, you are. You haven't had your throttle pinned for as long as maybe the guy behind you.
Correct.
So it almost looked like Oscar had DRS.
It did a bit, didn't it? Yeah. Anyway, he managed to eke out a lead of about 8 seconds on average, which was enough to go and do a pit stop and make sure he was ahead, even if it was a poor pit stop.
Well, it was actually because they couldn't double stack.
Yeah.
To do with a lot of that gap. Plus, they did do a bit of a shoddy job on Lando's pit stop, in fairness.
With his left
that
front, yeah.
Yeah, that gap shouldn't have been 8 seconds, if we're being completely honest. But I think Oscar did really well to maintain that, especially with the tyre delta.
Yeah.
Lando pitted a lap later for hards.
Yes.
The rest of the grid was on mediums.
Yeah, they were.
Which I think because of the cool track temperatures, thanks in large part to the rain, they managed to eke out a bit more life on that rubber.
They did.
More than expected, at least. So then, Lando's hards, while definitely gave him a delta in terms of, like, less worn by the end of the race, it didn't really matter.
That's right. And they're saying that Oscar did a couple of personal bests at the end of the race anyway. So he had a bit left in the tank, if you will. And they crossed the line. Oscar was 3.4 seconds ahead of Lando.
Yeah, and again, but you got to remember as well, like, because of those bit of those mistakes that Lando was making, like, he could have had 3 more laps. Like, if 3 more laps happened, woulda, coulda, shoulda. It was so funny hearing the commentary. I mean, look, I feel for the Sky Sports team. They want to see their guy win, but.
Either Lewis Hamilton
for them,
or Lando, yeah. But someone else driving a Ferrari, Charles Leclerc, came in third, which was very good. He held off Max Verstappen, yeah. Like that was,
Verstappen kept him so honest.
They were saying, like, the difference between lap times was like a thousandth of a second. So,
yeah,
pretty impressive. Any more to add?
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Again, 3 more laps, could have been Lando.
NASCAR Cup also happened on the weekend, and former supercar champion Shane Van Gisbergen started from 11th at the Brickyard, Indianapolis on the weekend. Shane finished in the top 20 for the 5th time this season, driving on the ovals, coming home in 19th. Next week will be another oval for SVG, so not expecting him to do too well there. But the following week, Watkins Glen, which is a road circuit, which he will go in as hot favourite on that.
Good stuff.
IndyCar also happened on the weekend at the classic circuit of Laguna Seca. For those unfamiliar with the circuit, it features a downhill S-bend known as the corkscrew.
I hate that in Forza Motorsport. Like, it's so fun when you nail it, but it's like, you don't even, like, where's the entry? And, like, you're off camber and you're downhill, and you're like, it's crazy.
F1 could never go there. They just bottom out anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was
They'd work it out. I mean, much like Monaco, I think they'd work it out. That it'd be like, this is the Laguna Seca spec.
It was another win for Alex Palau, driving for Chip Ganassi Racing. Aussie Will Power was 7th, and former supercar champion Scotty McLaughlin finished 10th. So that's
Australian adjacent. Obviously.
Australian adjacent. And the big one, happy birthday. It would be remiss of us not to mention this, Maximilian, but the oldest driver on the F1 grid, apart from the safety driver, Bernard Mailander, who is a decade older.
Burn Mailander.
Is it Burn? Just Burn,
yeah,
okay.
Burned, yeah.
Yeah. Just had their birthday. Happy birthday to the fabulous Fernando Alonso, who just turned 44. A number that is 30 more than his actual racing number of 14, but equal to the racing number of the next oldest person on the grid, Lewis Hamilton.
Who we can argue is his main rival.
Yeah. Lewis turned 40 in January this year, and his racing number is now Alonso's age.
Wow, fates entwined.
Fernando Alonso, fun facts, he has raced over 110,000 kilometres, raced in 414 GPs, has faced off against 122 opponents, been on the podium 106 times, has 32 wins to his name, 26 fastest laps, 22 pole positions, 15 different teammates, and he has been crowned world champion twice.
What's crazy is he's been on the grid longer than some of the F1 drivers have actually been alive, which is pretty weird, including Piastri. I think Piastri was the first one to come through that was like of that era.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Anyway, I got a birthday song of sorts. It's a birthday song for Triple Z, but just pretend it's for Alonso. Any more for this week for the MotoRap?
I think that's it.
Cool.
Looking forward to Hungary.
Here we are this weekend. Nice.
Always love Hungary. As they say, Monaco without walls. Might be one of the best circuits on the calendar.
You tuned into for Triple Z, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me, Max, doing it solo this week. But I have got some recordings from last year. We're going to hear from Gabe. This comes from the 21st of August last year. He's banging on about Stonehenge.
Stonehenge, let's talk about that. Now,
or one stone of henge.
One stone of Stonehenge. Yeah. Well, look, I think it's good I go into this one a bit salty because I went into this Stonehenge being like, surely with the advancements of modern science, we've figured Stonehenge out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a couple of rocks. Surely at this point,
And it's not that impressive too. When I went and saw it, like you thought it was going to be way bigger than it is.
Whoa, you can't be saying that, man.
You almost miss it as you drive past.
You just thought there were a couple of really big cows.
Anyway,
Well,
yeah, sorry.
I mean, that helps my theory because I personally think that what should really happen with Stonehenge is that someone from India should come, take a few pieces of it and put it in a museum and refuse to give it back.
Yeah, they're right.
To treat it better.
Yeah.
They're just leaving it out in some field.
Yeah,
England
true.
clearly isn't treating Stonehenge well enough. So I think one of us colonized nations should
Take it.
take it.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
Yeah.
Really treat it well in a museum.
That's reparations right there.
Exactly.
So that was where I was at. I'm like, yeah, Max, you're coming from a very even saltier place than I am. But I was like, surely modern science has figured Stonehenge out.
Yeah.
But apparently, maybe not, because there's one stone which is buried, or partially buried, called the Altar Stone, which is a 50 centimeter thick sandstone block measuring 5 by 1 meters in width and length that sits at the center of Stonehenge's iconic stone circle in Wiltshire. Now, it comes from Wales, Stonehenge. That's the running thing. There's a bunch from Wales.
It
There's a
comes
bunch
from
England.
Wales?
The stone.
Marine
The stones
science.
come from Wales.
Stone comes from Wales. It is. It comes from Wales. That washed up onto the shores of Wales. And, no, it comes from Wales and from England, the stones. And they've traced it back to about 3000 BC.
Wait, where actually is Stonehenge?
In England,
Where in England? I know it's in
about
England.
150 kilometres south
South of London.
and a bit east from Wales. That's as far as they transported it. Or 200 k's, actually, I think it was. So, but this is the thing, though. The running idea has been it comes from Wales and a bit from England. They got a bit of a shock, though, because there was a young Welshman. He's called Anthony Clark. He's currently a PhD candidate at Curtin University in Perth. QS ranking, anyone?
Yeah.
Oh, we did this the other day.
Okay.
Really? 70.
University. 180.
140.
174.
Yeah.
Good. Now he's from Wales. He's actually from the region of Wales where a bunch of the
So he's
Stonehenge
invested.
stones are from.
Yeah, gotcha.
So he is. He's personally invested in this, and he's led a study out of Perth into the
As you do.
age and chemistry of mineral into the age and the chemistry of mineral grains within this one altar stone. And as you might have guessed, they got a bit of a wild result. And in fact, the result was so wild, it's landed this research directly into the pages of the most prestigious scientific journal in the world, Nature. Their analysis of the altar stone traced it back not to Wales, but Scotland. And a
little further away.
A little further away. So like I said, it's 200 k's away about from the site of Stonehenge to about where they think the rocks are from. 750 kilometres to get to where the northern parts of Scotland where they have attributed this
Were they
altar
just making
stone from.
horses drag them or something?
So,
Camels.
for a start, Mr. Clark said to BBC News, native camel. Mr. Clark said to BBC News, I don't think I'll be forgiven by people back home. It's a great loss for Wales to lose the altar stone.
Oh.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but like you're
Significant.
saying, given its Scottish origins, this is a big question now about how Neolithic era people, 2600 BC or 3000 BC, that sort of range, moved a massive stone 750 kilometres. They say, one of the researchers says, that the discovery highlights a significant level of societal coordination during the Neolithic period and helps paint a fascinating picture of prehistoric Britain because transporting such massive cargo overland from Scotland to southern England would have been extremely challenging, indicating a likely marine shipping route along the coast of Britain.
They threw those rocks on boats.
They threw those rocks on boats.
So it is a marine science story.
Yeah.
It is. Full circle. They also aged it, which is one of the ways they attribute it to this Orcadian basin in northern Scotland.
Oh, so it
They
wasn't just
say-
that it had like a tartan pattern or something.
No, it wasn't quite that. Yeah.
Ah, damn.
Yeah.
The specific mineral grains in the ultrasone, they say, are between 1,000 to 2,000 million years old. The other minerals are around 450 million years old. So that's how one of the ways they traced it back to that area of Scotland. It means that, their silver lining on this was like, well, it's just a collection of Britain coming together. England, Wales and Scotland
The UK.
all dumping stones
United.
into one place for Max to get toured around and forget about.
Yeah, very quickly. You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. No Idea Space News. You heard it during the 11 a.m. ZZZ Z-liners talked about Gilmore Space. They flew their Eros rocket off of Bowen for the first time. It hovered for a while, then crashed, so they just added to the well-worn phrase, space is hard. Astronauts, in some good news, long-duration space flight does not affect your arteries. Studies have shown changes in astronauts' eyes, muscles and bones. And a new study, which involved 13 NASA astronauts, volunteers, aimed to shed more light on arteries. Researchers studied ultrasound images of the volunteers' arteries located in the neck and arm before launch, during spaceflight, 1 week after return to Earth, and up to 3 times in the 5 years after landing. They found structure and function of astronauts' arteries appear to remain stable and free from disease after they return from the International Space Station. And talking about astronauts in space, there are currently 10 humans in space, 7 on the ISS and 3 on the Chinese space station. However, this will change probably tomorrow with the launch of Crew 11. That will briefly bring the total up to 14. And speaking of the number 14, did you know this was conveyed to me by Anthony from Balls in the Air? 14 is the maximum number of clubs you're allowed to carry around when you go play golf. Arsenic, the controversial claim of microbes that exhibit arsenic rather than phosphorus in their biochemistry, has finally been retracted by the prestigious journal Science after 15 years when it first published it. Most in the research community are pleased by the decision, but unsurprisingly, the retraction has angered the study's authors. The arsenic is generally considered a toxic substance, and therefore life as we know it would not include arsenic in their biochemistry. Yet, because of the search for alien life, astrobiologists like to consider the possibility of organisms harbouring unfamiliar biochemistry. Even NASA held a press conference back in 2010 to declare the supposed discovery of arsenic-based microbial life in Mono Lake, a heavily salt-rich body of water in California. NASA claimed this discovery would forever change the search for life beyond Earth. Now the editors of Science have retracted the study, citing Science's standards for retracting papers have expanded. If the editors determine that a paper's reported experiments do not support its key conclusions, even if no fraud or manipulation occurred, a retraction is considered appropriate. Clearly, there'll be some more on this breaking story to come. You tuned into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, but not for much longer. Anyway, thanks, Peta, for your weird Bottlenose of Dolphin story. Gabe, for their weird science about researchers' novel investigation into fly strike on sheep. Thanks to me, I guess, for my weird about the spider silk microphone. Thanks to Maximilian for joining me for the MotoRap. Peta, again, thank you for your marine science on mussels. And Gabe with his Stonehenge mystery story solved. Okay, I'm going to leave you, and we'll speak to you next week.
I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.